Co-chairs, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to address the UNDP's Global Center for Public Service Excellence Conference on pigs and complex challenges in small places. In light of the ongoing efforts to prepare for Small Island Developing States SIDS conference later this year in September in Samoa, I am delighted to make this statement at the renowned National University of Singapore and the Lee Kuan Yew of Public Policy. And to be here with your Excellencies, Ambassador McKees Matthews, I'm sure he was telling me he'll come in late, but and my fellow counterparts from the government of Singapore. This afternoon, I look forward to the opportunity to share your knowledge and experience in tackling, as has been announced by Max, the issue faced by small island states, as similar to those in my own country, the Kingdom of Tonga. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, let me begin by saying that it is a big year for small islands. 2014 to 2040, an initiative by the UN Secretary Generals last year was inaugurated as Sustainable Energy for All. But also, it happens to be this year the International Year of SIDS. We have an unprecedented opportunity to shape the global sustainable development agenda for years to come. As we prepare the upcoming third International Conference on Small Island Developing States in Samoa, September of this year, Tonga looks ahead to this third SIDS conference with great anticipation. Our long-standing support of SIDS reflects our own place in the world, but we are especially pleased that the International Year of the SIDS and conference is held in the South Pacific, within the regions that we call home. And today's conference presents a highly significant opportunity to galvanize international action in support of SIDS and to focus on Tonga's partnership with the international development agencies and especially with the government of Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, today the top three complex and big challenges faced by Tonga and other small island states in the Pacific are climate change, sea level rise, natural disasters, and geographic isolation. But the list adds on to other key challenges, such as the disadvantage of smallness in size, diversity of economies, the narrow range of resources and manpower, non-communicable diseases, limited access to energy resources, and export markets. To start with, natural disasters and climate change remain a looming threat to daily lives of the small island developing states. Because we are located among the most vulnerable regions in the world. Tonga knows well the bitter experience of 2009 tsunami at the very northern island of Nuatop-Tapu, which claimed 9 lives. Cyclones that regularly battered our region, and the region's event of Tropical Cyclone Ian and its disheartening effects on one of our island groups shows that our vulnerability to climate change and disaster risk is very real. The frequency and intensity of these natural hazards is expected to increase as a result of climate change. And with their increasing impact, we are sure to face disproportionate high economic, social, and environmental consequences. In the past, our geographic dispersion and isolation from market has placed us at a disadvantage economically because of the high freight cost and hindered our competitiveness with other regions or regional neighbors. And because we are small in size than New Zealand and other larger Pacific islands, it forces undue specialization, excessive dependence on international trade, and development aid due to limited resources and costly public administration and infrastructure. But in many ways, over the last 4 years, Tonga has learned to bear the brunt of crisis of climate change, food security, and finance, and it has never been more active than before in its response and efforts of building its own resilience to addressing these complex issues. Tonga has learned that if it doesn't adjust, it will continue to make decisions reactively and continue to look in the rear view mirror. So a shift from predictions to anticipatory awareness approach will help itself in disaster reduction and mitigation. In recognizing that it can be afflicted by economic difficulties and confronted by development imperatives similar to those of bigger developing countries, Tonga saw the need to reinvent itself and find ways to strengthen its own resilience. With resilience, it shows that the challenges of natural disasters are inevitable, but Tonga's focus should be on fast exploration, quick detection, and early recovery. Never before has Tonga learned to adapt itself to change and take leadership in full pursuit of sustainable development than this decade that we are in. Ladies and gentlemen, what is unique about Tonga is that it is the only remaining Polynesian sovereign state in the Pacific that has never been colonized by a foreign power. Since 2010, Tonga has undergone historic and fundamental changes from an executive monarchy to a modern parliamentary democracy. This was an important turning point in Tonga's move towards globalization. Tonga's strive for individuality and effort to continually reconstruct itself and keep its relevance to the world are the key for survival of small island states that have little power to alter the regions, let alone the world. The world stage is an arena for business, where big and small nations compete for economic survival, for political independence, armed with their best resources and uniqueness for a competitive edge, looking for niche market for survival. And as a small nation, Tonga has strived to make itself relevant so that other countries will have an interest in our continued survival and prosperity as a sovereign and independent nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Year of Small Island Developing States will celebrate the contributions that this group of countries has made to the world. Never before have our people from the region been at the forefront of efforts to addressing pressing global issues through ingenuity, innovations, and use of traditional knowledge. And as mentioned before, Tonga is very proud of its instrumental contribution to the signing of the framework to establish a Pacific Regional Data Repository. Last September in New York, by the UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, as a testament of the Pacific's leaders in stepping up to the climate change challenges and support the UN initiative for sustainable energy for all. Then again, our small island kingdom has continued to make waves on the international scenes in its effort to rally support from international partners for small island developing states to pursue blue economy, which focus on ocean resources and marine environment, and the development of shipping and port facilities, tourism industries, and offshore mining. It makes the best of its existing resources by recognizing the significant contribution that blue economy can make towards the alleviation of hunger, eradicating of poverty, and mitigating climate change. Again, in the midst of global uncertainty, inequality, and volatility of economic issues and prospects, Tonga, like other small island states, accepts its vulnerability and looks to reposition itself in a global arena and work together with donor agencies in building resilience, undertaking change management, and target other investments. These targeted investments may be exploiting the sectors of tourism, agriculture, ICT, finance, and green blue economy. At the domestic level and within our own administrations, government is moving towards more dynamic public and private collaborations and partnerships. Public-private partnerships are key to addressing the main challenges of Tonga in terms of infrastructure, transport and communication, and access to capital, identifying champions in the private sector and other partners to promote entrepreneurships in Tonga should be treated with urgent action. In the service sector, particularly tourism. This presents a genuine opportunity for Tonga and SIDS to expand their economic activity while earning foreign currency. Blue economy can open up opportunities for investment in the sea or in this area. Just like other small island states, Tonga is inspired by the success story of the Singaporean experience, not only in the sectors of government and the progress of the information and communication technologies, but public service administration excellence. This morning, Tonga signed a memorandum of understanding with the Nanyang Business School to offer MBA fellowship program scholarships to Tonga candidates. Access to quality skills and training is vital to delivering an effective public service. This is a very core relationships that the government of Tonga wishes to see flourish with the assistance of the government of Singapore and the Global Center for Public Service Excellence. This afternoon, I stand before you to seek, ladies and gentlemen, the best advice and technical skills from Singapore's best in the public service excellence. We are truly inspired by your leaderships in public service reforms and look forward to gaining insights from this conference into generating better public services. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, let me reiterate that achieving and sustaining development in small nations like Tonga is a complex and demanding task. There are other various roles played by aid, trade, remittances, and governance. But what is certain is, if Tonga and other small nations faced with complex challenges do not address their vulnerabilities head-on, the adverse effects of climate change, rising oil and food prices, economic instability, and inability to adapt will put Tonga's survival at risk. Resilience is the way forward to sustaining complex challenges in small nations. Lastly, given this afternoon's opportunity to address the conference, I would like to thank the Director of the UNDP GCP-SE, Max Everest Phillips, and friends from the UNDP for their considerable efforts in organizing this event. This is a unique moment for Tonga to seek additional support from the government of Singapore in public sector reform and leadership program. I'm pleased to say that Singapore and the Pacific Island countries, including Tonga, share warm and friendly relations which are underpinned by strong political will. With that warm note, let us look forward to an interactive, substantive discussion with our counterparts here from the UNDP and the government of Singapore, with high hope that I can take home tangible outcomes and priorities for Tonga in its forthcoming address of the SIDS. Thank you, Malo Aupito.